All right, so we're gonna make a weed pepper by pyrolyzing the seed and the root and the reproductive parts of the chickweed plant. When you have like super fertile soil, but it's damp, like end of winter, especially in early spring, the chickweed can be a problem because it's got too much moisture. The soil has too much moisture, but it's super fertile, and that tends to be one of the weeds. Not the worst one, but it's very, very prolific. So we're trying to minimize it here on the farm, and we're going to try some biodynamic practices of peppering, of burning, pyrolyzing the reproductive parts of the plant. I have in here quite a bit of seed casings and some root, and we're going to put those items inside this copper tube with the caps. It will minimize the oxygen and do a adequate enough job of pyrolyzing all that material inside here. Then we'll take it out, take the ashes out, and we'll do a radionic copy into water. That way we can control potency, and then we can go after it through the field broadcaster. So right now I'm going to put the material in the copper pipe and then put that in the fire for a while so let the fire die down on top of it and come back later and collect the material inside. So yeah, we have seeds, seed casings, and root material. Get that on really tight, and we're just going to toss it in. Toss it in the coals. And we'll put some more wood on there, let the fire burn down on top of it, come back after a while to collect the material. All right, so we got the seeds, the copper pipe with the seeds and the root material from the chickweed out of the fire after it burned down to nothing. Now our next step is to take that burnt material here, the pyrolyzed material, the seeds and the roots, and to imprint that signal, the non-vital magnetic signal basically, onto this water. The water has been restructured beforehand, and essentially if you restructured for 20 minutes, you imprint for 20 minutes, and so on. So just do the inverse amount of time, the imprinting, as you did restructuring. So we'll take the water off the vortexer here in a second. First I'm going to transfer the pyrolyzed material into this glass jar, glass vial. And now we can use this on the input plate. All the dials for this are just set to 0 because we're just copying straight from one to the other. We have the frequency generator going on its appropriate setting. You can take the input, output onto our water, which I'll actually go ahead and just imprint this whole vial of water, this whole jar of water here. So we'll just imprint the whole jar, and then we can take that water and separate it into smaller vials or smaller jars and put those at different potencies using this other equipment, which we'll get to after this is done. So we're going to give this 20 minutes, the same amount of time we restructured, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so now that our imprinting is complete, from the pyrolyzed roots and seeds to the mother reagent, to the large vial of water here, we'll remove the original witness sample. We'll take our mother reagent, move it over to the input plate. And our goal here is to take this vial of clean, freshly erased water, and we're going to imprint from the mother to this vial so that we can put this in our field broadcaster. But we want to make the broadcast more acute, more specific. So we're going to include a Polaroid of our farm property, of our soil here that we're going to be applying the broadcast to include that information. And we're going to set a radionics rate, a vibrational rate, using the stick pad for this mother reagent, so that when we broadcast it over to the other sample, it's more specific to our use, if that makes sense. So we're going to use this dowsing tool. This is a stick plate. It's kind of a static response on the fingertips, because the operator, we're in God's laboratory and we are part of this experiment. Our consciousness is integrated into it, so we can become a part of this operation. We're going to be a part of the detection. I wouldn't call this electrostatics, but I would call it eloptostatics, because we're dealing with eloptic energy, which has some of the properties of electricity, some of the properties of optical light. So we're going to set a 3-dial rate here for this mother reagent before we copy it onto the vial. And you do that by turning the dial while moving your finger across this this pad here until you feel the eloptostatic response that I was referring to. So we have a 379 radionic rate here. Now we're going to use this mother reagent with the rate to copy it over to this vial of water that will go in our broadcaster. And we're going to set this at 30C, which is a lower potency. We're going to try that first, and then we can try higher potencies once we observe results. So we're going to kind of go at a lower rate and broadcast that potency, and then we can move up into the CM or the M range, which is like a much higher rate. So we're going to let this copy for 20 minutes, just like we did the other things. We've erased for 20 minutes. We made the mother for 20 minutes. Now we'll let this potentized copy set on 30 centum. We'll let that copy for 20 minutes, and then we'll be ready to put that potentized reagent into our field broadcaster out in the field. All right, so 20 minutes, the potentized reagent is ready to go put in the broadcaster, so we'll go out there and put that in our field broadcaster. All right, so we're out here at the double tower field broadcaster. As you guys may know, like, one of these coils broadcast to atmosphere, and the lower coil that's in the ground broadcast to the soil. So because we're dealing with because we're dealing with the chickweed in the ground, we're going to put it in our lower broadcaster well. She wants to be in the video. So let's open us up here. There's already a field map for the whole farm, limiting the broadcast to just our property. So I'm going to put that potentized reagent of the pyrolyzed seed and root, seal this back up, and as a point of interest, these are what the circuits that are inside the broadcaster look like. They're basically mirror images. This is the soil well broadcast, this is the atmospheric well broadcast, and they're powered by the potential difference between the cathode and the anode, the antenna and the plate that's deep in the ground on the bottom of the soil broadcast coil. So at certain points, at two different points, that energy is routed through a diode, which is like a one-way valve for energy. It's only allowed to broadcast up. When it gets down here, it's only allowed to broadcast down. That's a simple way to put it. Those are diodes there on the circuit, and it limits where the energy flows and how it's used. And along the way, it passes along those coils around the wells where we insert the inputs, and picks up that information, then around a crystal oscillator which amplifies the signal, and then out to the broadcast coil, one to the soil, one to the atmosphere. So that's a basic breakdown of how these work. But anyway, we're going to see how this goes with the chickweed prevention here as we get into spring while we have wet soil. It's very fertile but very damp right now. So we'll see how it goes. We'll keep you updated. Lots of love.